Hi everyone. This is take 3 because I don't know what's happening with the Facebook today. But this is supposed to be your weekly check-in on the astrology of September 16th through 22nd, 2019. And I wanted to talk a little bit about last week's astrology and how it, let's say, connects to this week's astrology. So if you remember from last week's video, and even the stuff that I wrote on the on Facebook and on my blog last week, and even on Instagram, follow me on Instagram, is that we were in this very heavily Neptune Pisces energy. And what does that mean? We might have felt tired, ungrounded, like we're floating, or confused. Maybe we are questioning reality, questioning ourselves, questioning which way we're going. Neptune is a planet that dissolves the boundaries between this world and the world that we can't see, the world that we kind of can sense in our dreams, our intuition. It's the world of energy. So we maybe felt a little off. And I think it's worth repeating that if last week was heavy, and if you're going into this week feeling a little bit like there's I guess like a hangover, for lack of a better term, like an emotional, spiritual, psychic hangover, do make sure you're taking care of yourself this week, because I think Neptune, especially this full moon that we had, it really pressed on some deep buttons. And when things within us start to move, it's good that we have support. It's good that we keep our feet on the ground as much as we can. I mean, since we're dealing with Neptune energy, maybe we're taking a bath or working with salt, getting out into the ocean if that's appropriate. So as we step into the astrology this week, we're not fully out of that Neptune energy. And why is that? Well, on the 21st, I believe that's Saturday. Yes, it's Saturday. We are having the last of 3 what's called Jupiter-Neptune squares. And this has been going on since the beginning of this year. I believe it was January, and then again in June, if I'm remembering correctly. And I'm just noticing that this energy, especially if you are a Pisces or if you are a Sagittarius, I would even throw in your Gemini and your Virgos. And of course, I also mean rising sign as well. It's maybe eroded, because what Neptune sometimes does, it erodes at our faith in ourselves, our faith in goodness, or that if we do good things, it's all going to work out. So I've just kind of seen people do a little soul searching. This Neptune energy that we're having this week, especially as we get to this last square, it's asking us, like, what's our faith in? And when we are really working with this heavy Neptune energy, as we have last week, I think it's a good time to meditate. I think it's, especially with Mars and Virgo right now, even though Mars right now is in this sort of awkward opposition to Neptune, Mars and Neptune together, it's like the spiritual warrior, at least it can be. But Mars and Neptune in opposition, like they are this week, it's this push-pull between what we want. Mars is willpower, it's the self, it's what we want. When we have the first Mars return, for instance, it's H2, and what's our first word? What do we learn around that time? It's to say no. So Mars is really about that planet that, we kind of stand up for ourselves and we say no, and it's very much about want and desire. Then here comes Neptune. It's not about what we think we want. Neptune is the higher plan. It's the divine plan. Whether or not you believe that, but there is a sense that there are things that are outside of our control. And so I think that that's a theme this week, with Mars opposite Neptune, with Jupiter square Neptune, is that we're trying to align our human selves with our spiritual selves. And sometimes our spiritual self knows much more than we do. It knows the path, it knows the plan, it's trying to get us to go where we're supposed to go. But because we have free will and we're humans, and we have desires that are sometimes maybe not the best desires. It's like we're just kind of clashing a little bit this week. So this is why I'm suggesting that maybe meditation or reflection, that really quiet yet productive search within, might be a good way to use this energy this week. If you're joining me on the live feed, please say hi, in addition to my mom, who's on the live feed. Hi, Mom. And tell me how you are feeling this Neptune energy, this Jupiter square Neptune. Has it been eroding at your faith, or have you gone back to something quiet and something nurturing and something deep within? But for all the Neptune energy that we're experiencing right now, the main event of this week is Saturn turning direct. It will turn direct on Wednesday at 13 degrees of Capricorn. So, just as an aside, if you are in Australia or Asia, this might be the next day. Saturn does turn direct. It probably is still the 18th for you in Australia and Asia, because it turns direct, at least in New York, at 4:46 a.m. What does this mean? So Saturn has been in Capricorn since December of 2017. And when it went into Capricorn, it went into what's called its home sign. And Saturn right now is especially strong in Capricorn, which in English, that means that it is a really important time for us to build for the future, to take responsibility and accountability for our actions, look at our past, and kind of get right with ourselves and get right with the world. I'm seeing some people saying hello, some familiar faces. Hi, Leslie. Hi, Mom. So people are sharing how they are feeling. Yes, Lena is a little bit Alice in Wonderland. There are some moments where you're just like, is this real life? It's like, do we all go to the dentist? And they're like, is this real life? So Saturn in Capricorn, it's pretty serious energy. Saturn just in general is a pretty serious energy. And I know I might be in the minority on this, but I actually really like Saturn. Why? Because Saturn, it does what it's supposed to do. It's supposed to get us to grow up and to mature and stick to the plan. Everybody came in with a plan. You see this plan in the natal chart. It's saying, okay, you said you would work on your voice or take your voice seriously, Saturn in the third house, or your choices seriously, Saturn the third, or maybe you were born with Saturn in Sagittarius. Let's say you're in your early 30s now, and you said that you would learn faith. You would learn to value your wisdom and value your education, Saturn in Sagittarius. So everybody has some sort of plan and lesson that they came in here with. And maybe it's because my mom's a Virgo and she was a public school teacher for a very long time. Like, I get that idea that sometimes, the planets, there's a curriculum, there's a whole list of things that you have to learn. And so Saturn right now is teaching us about Capricorn. Capricorn is the sign of matter. It's the sign of the material world, which means that we have to kind of wake up and brush our teeth and take care of ourselves and pay our bills and work. And I know that's not a very kind of glamorous lesson, but nevertheless, it's what we're learning right now. So the reason I love Saturn is because when we get in these very Neptune-y moments where we're questioning everything and we don't know which way is up and we don't know which way we're going, Saturn in our chart is one of the places we can go back to let's say get a grip on reality, to hold on to something, because that Saturn in your chart is always going to be your Saturn in your chart. So even though life might be going up and down and you're having this Alice in Wonderland moment, go back to Saturn. Saturn's always going to kind of anchor you in reality, because at the end of the day, even though we are spiritual beings, we are also physical beings, and we have to take care of our physical beings. I'm just saying hi to everybody in the chat. Yes, hello from Sweden. Hi, Joanna. I know you're in Portugal. Thank you, everybody, for your kind feedback. Yes, I know surrender is not a popular, let's say, thing to write about, because usually we're folks. We want to like live our lives and do what we want to do. But when the astrology is saying, no, stop and question what you're doing. And if sometimes we just have to let go of all of our expectations and let go of what we thought it was going to look like and be like, and just go with the flow. And so that's what Neptune does for my team. Oops. So yes, hello from not keen on Saturn. I'm really doing my best to try to sell Saturn on you. And I'm, to that point, I'm actually teaching a webinar tomorrow, at 7:30 p.m. New York time. I know that this might not be the best time for those, let's say, in Europe or Australia or LA, but you can still register to get the video replay and the audio replay. So it's like you can register, but you don't have to participate live. You can still ask me questions. So in this webinar, I'm going to try to sell you on Saturn and how Saturn can really help us to find some solid ground when life gets a little ups and downs and weird. For me, how did I become such a fan of Saturn? I actually wrote something. It's on my website. It's called In Defense of Saturn. And I became a fan of Saturn when I went through my Saturn return. Everybody goes through the Saturn return at age 29 and then again at age 58. And if you do live long enough, you'll do it 87. But when I went through the Saturn return for the first time and it kicked my butt, I was not a fan of Saturn because life was really hard at the time. And I'm not saying I always want to feel that hardness and intensity of life. Absolutely not. We still need room for sweetness. We still need room for pleasure and for relaxation. Saturn teaches us that everything, there's a time and place for everything. So when I went through my Saturn return, actually when I got out of my Saturn return, and I thought, okay, first of all, I was like amazed I was still standing, because it brought me to astrology on a much deeper level, and it gave me appreciation for astrology. I could see what Saturn was trying to do. And because with that hindsight, I could see that Saturn was trying to make me a better version of myself. And I had to look at why I wasn't the best version of myself at the time. And so I went through the Saturn return, made some decisions. Hopefully those decisions will hold up over time. And one of those decisions was to become a professional astrologer, because I saw in this language, this ancient language, just how much it can guide us, tell us about ourselves, and help us orient ourselves for the future, which is what I do in my client work. And those of you who have worked with me one-on-one know what I'm talking about. So I see that Marina is also, hi Marina, I miss you. So I'm talking about Saturn on Tuesday in my webinar, and I'm going to show you that depending on where Saturn was when you were born, the sign, and also what's called the house that it was in, it gives you a roadmap. And that's something that we return to, again and again. But for those of us who are not going to be on the webinar, what can we understand from Saturn turning direct on Wednesday? Depending on where Capricorn is in your chart, it's somewhere, that part of your life needs a lot of work right now. So let's just quickly go around the zodiac so we can all orient ourselves into what Saturn is asking us right now. If you are in Aries, this time is about career, figuring out who and what you want to be when you grow up. Doesn't matter if you are 25 or 55, or trying to, solidify your direction in life. So, for all, and this is for Aries and Aries rising, and for all of the kind of keywords I'm going to give for the signs, that's what you're supposed to be doing. That's what you're supposed to be working on. That's where you're feeling the burn, so to speak. So that's Aries. Taurus, you're trying to figure out what you believe in. Taurus, this is a time for you to not only see yourself differently, but to also see the world differently. And so this might be a time, Taurus, when you are either re-educating yourself, doing a lot of kind of these questions around faith and meaning and truth, and maybe even doing some foreign travel, or also going back to school, going back to university, or some sort of specialized teaching that's going to help your career. If you are a, sorry, I'm just looking at the comments. Yes, wish you too. If you are a Gemini or a Gemini rising, I think this time is a little bit tricky for you, because the hard work you're doing right now is on your psyche, is on your deepest emotional selves. And so you might feel very raw, you might feel very vulnerable, and you might feel that you're really having to face yourself right now and face the shadow part of yourself. So I've said this before, I will say this again. I've said this to my Gemini clients. It is good to have a guide during this time, because this might sound a little blunt, but you're going through your underworld. And just like in mythology, it's something that's best done when escorted by a god like Mercury instead of doing it by ourselves. So working with a counselor, working with a therapist, I think is a good way to really step up to what Saturn is asking you right now. If you are a Cancer, Saturn is wanting you to do a lot of work on relationships right now. So Saturn's almost like heavy lifting. So you're really having to take a look at how you interact, how you engage, how you compromise, how you socialize. You might be doing this in the with all your relationships, not just romantic partnership. If you are in a serious relationship, it's time to take it to the next level. Sometimes during this time, you might have seen a breakup, because Saturn is asking, like, is this connection strong enough to last? So that's where Cancer's at. If you are a Leo, this is a time when you're having to really take a serious look at health, how you take care of your body, how you show up in your everyday life. So this week is a big check-in on how you're doing that. This might also mean some sort of major project that you're working on, but I think that there's this need for Leo right now to take their human life, their daily life seriously. If you are a Virgo, this is a time when you're having to get very serious about talents and your creativity in the sense of personality and identity. And Virgo does a really good job of putting everybody else first. Yes, it's a read. And so this is a time when you're having to really either like assert who you are, or really find a sense of value in who you are and what you have to share, and especially your creative abilities and your talents. If you are a Libra, this is a time when it's about laying the foundation for your life. So you are going through a serious time where it's about roots, foundation, and where you planted. Literally, metaphorically, you might be making a move, or you've made a major move, or family and kind of the people you call family, whether they're blood related or not, are a major kind of factor in your life right now. If you are a Scorpio, this is a time when you need to get very serious about your voice. So this is a time when it's about stepping things up with communication or writing or learning. It might be a time when you're doing a lot of studying right now, but also this time is about, in some ways, choice. So what choices are you making right now, Scorpio? Because these choices can make, it's like either a left or a right that can take your life in very different directions. But it's important to know that your words have meaning and your words have impact. If you are a Sagittarius, this has been a time, it's been about money, how you earn money, how you earn a living, how you spend money, how you value money, and not just money, but the things that you own. Saturn is really asking you at this time to be very conscientious about how you accumulate what you need and define what you need. It's kind of a hard time money-wise, because you're just really having to work extra hard. Like for everybody, Saturn is, wherever Saturn's kind of placing pressure, it's like we're at the gym and the treadmill just went suddenly like this, and our muscles are burning and we don't know how we're going to make it. But Saturn teaches us that no pain, no gain. It's like, and I'll talk about this on my webinar, it's that there's Saturn can kind of come at us with these kind of almost like three facets, or these three faces. It can either be the cop, Saturn's telling us where we did wrong. Parent, that kind of sense of the authority in our life and somebody who is acting like a parent, and where we have to kind of step up because the parent is asking us to step up. Or the life coach. Saturn can be this, this planet that really pushes us towards mastery and excellence, because Saturn is the planet of mastery. And so wherever Saturn is right now for you, don't worry, I will finish the rest of the signs, that's an area that demands mastery. So for instance, Sagittarius, you are learning over the next, you're already kind of halfway through it, but by the end of 2020, you're mastering money. Moving on to Capricorn, you are learning to master yourself, life, new beginnings. It's kind of putting a lot of pressure on you right now, Capricorn. And I've said this before, but I'll just kind of reiterate. You also have what's called the South Node in Capricorn right now at Pluto. It's a bit of a tough mix, I'm just being honest. So I think that Saturn is really looking at you seriously. It is not a time right now, Capricorn, to cut corners. It is not a time to step out of line. Like you've got all eyes on you right now. As a Capricorn, your goal in the zodiac is to sort of like set the bar for all of us. Set the bar with responsibility, set the bar with like mastery and hard work, and that if you work hard, you can get to certain places in the world. Capricorn is a sign of matter and power. So Saturn's really looking hard at you right now. So just hang in there. Just be really accountable to yourself and be accountable to others. And just note that Saturn will be in Capricorn until March of next year. I think it's early March of 2020. It dips into Aquarius up until July of 2020. And then it dips back out. So from July to December of 2020, Saturn has that last go at Capricorn. I think it gets all the way back to either 25 or 26 Capricorn for those who are paying attention to the degrees. So that's just to kind of give you an idea, Capricorn, about what the road is ahead. Just kind of checking in with the comments. Hello, Sarah. I see Libra stellium, Pluto squaring it. Yeah, if you've got a lot of planets in what are called the cardinal signs right now, especially what are called the last 10 degrees of the cardinal signs, Aries, Cancer, Libra, Capricorn. It's not an easy time. It just isn't. You're really working through a lot of deep stuff and trying to transform and change a lot of things. And in addition to the element of Saturn's need for balance and accountability. Moving along to Aquarius. So Aquarius, a lot of this stuff for you is taking place behind the scenes. Saturn's in what's called your 12th sign. And so you've been, the best way I can put it, Aquarius, is there's a lot of stuff that's in your, let's say, your psychic baggage, your psychic luggage that you cannot take with you into this next big chapter of your life. Because when Saturn gets to Aquarius in March, it is a new beginning for you, at least a preview of a new beginning, because Saturn won't really truly be in Aquarius until December. So I think that, with Saturn turning direct this week, make sure you're looking at, taking spiritual inventory of what's in that proverbial suitcase or steamer trunk, whatever metaphor you want. A steamer trunk, I mean, what year is it? The 19th century? Sorry, guys. Your digital cloud. Of course, you're an Aquarius. You got everything on the cloud. So make sure that you're not bringing a lot of stuff with you into this new time in your life, Aquarius, because when you bring the stuff with you into this next cycle, it gets with you. So be very clear about what you're bringing and packing with you. Pisces, this is about community and friendships. So Saturn is asking, like, who are your friends? Who's part of your community? Who are the groups that you're involved in? So this week you might have to really take a serious look about the people that you have been, building connections and building relationships with since the beginning of 2018. Sometimes when Saturn goes into what's called the 11th sign, which this did for you, Pisces, back in the very end of 2017, you might have lost a lot of friends. Sometimes serious friendships or people we thought were friends leave our life when Saturn goes into this part of the chart. So hopefully you've been working on strengthening, rebuilding, taking a second look at who your friends are, because this is really the key theme for you this week, Pisces. Hello, Liverpool. Yes, hi. Hello, Allison. So that's pretty much the news this week. I will add that there is some Chiron stuff going on. We have like Venus opposite Chiron tomorrow. So there might be some relationship stuff, especially some old relationship themes that are bubbling up, kind of getting in the mix. With the Neptune stuff, and we're doing very healing work in addition to the practical Saturn work that we're doing this week. Mercury also squares the nodes this week, what's called the mean node, and we might have some serious decisions to make this week, especially now with Saturn turning direct. So that said, hang in there. Make sure you're taking care of yourself. Make sure, Saturn loves balance. For those who want to know a little bit more astrology, Saturn is what's called exalted in Libra, which means it does its best work in Libra. And at the end of the day, I think Saturn really just wants everything to be balanced. So if something is unsustainable, you might be looking at that this week, and whether that's how you take care of yourself or a relationship or a career or even just your flow of work, that's something that Saturn is really helping us to have some, do that work with. Next week, I'm traveling, so if we do a check-in, it might be kind of midweek, because that Monday I'm not going to be able to check in with you all. But again, shameless plug for the webinar I'm doing tomorrow, Facing Saturn. Links to my webinar and webinar registration are in the video links for this. You can also find links for my newsletter, for other lovely things. I put in a link to one of my Saturn articles on Saturn and Capricorn accountability, just so you can see what's going on. I'm sorry, I'm just looking at some comments. Diane, you asked if that comment about losing family, not just friends, since 2018. Possibly. It really depends on the chart. I think that I think sometimes the 11th, I'm going to be, astrology nerd for a moment. I think the 11th house has a lot in common with the 4th, even though it doesn't like on paper seem that way. So this is a little bit of a technical comment, but I'll put it in English. I think that sometimes family and friends and belonging, even though that they speak to two different parts of the chart, I think sometimes they are quite related. So it could be, Diane, it could be that this time is, you know, there maybe is a loss of family. If the case, I'm really sorry if that's been the case for you. So yes, it's a watery week, everybody. So make sure you are taking care of yourselves. Make sure you are making connections with people. And do know that Saturn is kind of doing a major check-in with us this week on Wednesday in particular. And when Saturn makes a check-in with us, it's like we've got a appointment with the parent or our life coach, and hopefully not the cop. So just look at what you're doing, look at what you're creating, hold yourself accountable, set healthy boundaries this week. Saturn loves healthy boundaries, especially if we've been doing this kind of Neptune business all over the week. But that's what I wanted to share with you all. So thank you all for joining me. You know, if you're watching this on the replay, thank you very much. I will put it on YouTube. You can also book a consultation with me. Also join me on Instagram as well. And for those who I know on the live feed, hello, miss you all. Hope to see you very soon. And for the rest of you, we will check in very soon. So have a wonderful week. Bye.